Buenos dias, muchachos. Happy Thursday, November 2nd. I hope you enjoyed your Halloween. Let's take a look at what we got going on today. Thursday. Looks like I got a little formatting error there. We have our check-ins today from 12:10 to 12:55. Remember, if you've not checked in with me yet this week, if you did not check in on Tuesday, you should check in with me either today or tomorrow. Remember, those are worth some participation points. Let's go and look at the dark money discussion questions before we transition into your assignments today, where we dive a little bit deeper into the electoral college for the next few days. I perused these questions before, answers rather, checked that before. Pretty solid. These are the ones that have been turned in thus far. Nevea, alarmed at how this documentary focused just on Montana's politics, yet they're able to find so much dirt and dark money coming from donors into the elections. Makes her wonder how much money is being spent all over the other states, and how much of that goes unnoticed or untraced. Does the presence of these unrestricted monies threaten the integrity of our elections? Well, that's a pretty accurate worry. In contemporary issues, when we look at the prison industrial complex, how corporations want people to go to jail because they make money off of it. This type of financial influence over our political institutions exists everywhere. And in this particular case, we look at Wisconsin. You can look at the school board races that are occurring right now in the state of Minnesota this election cycle. How many of these school boards are being school board candidates who are connected to these national organizations pushing an agenda that are funded by undoubtedly very conservative people, which I'm not questioning conservatism. I myself would probably be labeled a conservative. But there is no doubt that candidates all across the country, in every state, in every city, they are undoubtedly getting or dealing with their opponents receiving significant sums of money from people. And then with that, we go to the opposite side of this with the dark money. How much of this money is coming from people that we don't know who they are, we don't know what their initiatives are. It would be one thing if a candidate received a large amount of money but had to disclose that this came from George Soros, or this came from the Koch brothers, or this came from Warren Buffett. So then Americans could, make the connection that, okay, this money is coming from this person. What laws recently have been passed, what legislative issues have recently been passed that benefit these people, so we could see, are our elected officials representing their constituents? Are they representing us, or are they representing these very, very wealthy Americans? Jamie took a different approach. I find it most alarming how controlling governments can be with money and have so much power over everyone and what goes on. So I'm making an assumption here. So I don't know if I'm necessarily accurate, but it sounds like Jamie is most concerned that the government's maybe she supports that spending should be unlimited, and the government has too much control on what people are doing and how they express themselves. And perhaps reading this, perhaps she supports people being able to spend their money as they wish and trying to influence what the government is doing. There are plenty of people in this country that support Citizens United and think corporations and wealthy Americans should be able to spend whatever they want to influence elections and influence laws because they support the idea of limited government. They support the government supporting corporations, because if corporations are supported, the idea is perhaps that if they're able to make more money, they will pass that down. They will pass those increased profits down to their employees, which gives them more money and helps drive our economy. So an interesting take there. It's one from the opposite side. But again, there's two sides to every story here. So good post there. Joe Sanders, the degree to which public officials receive monetary gifts from organizations or companies and how it prompts them to vote in favor of their interests. And again, kind of goes back to Nevaeh's post, and I believe it is more or less what Milana said in hers. She said pushing certain things, influencing votes and what happens in a community. Yeah, I mean, it is an issue if people are not paying attention, and they're voting for a candidate because they got fancy ads or fancy talking points, but yet they really don't know who is going to benefit from it. And again, going back to Jamie's post, I don't think she's necessarily wrong. There are some people that think the government has too much power, that the government shouldn't be able to control these political activities because it is a violation of the First Amendment. And I would imagine these people have feelings that the government has done too much for people of lower incomes or of less education. And they would probably feel, whether it's true or not, that the government has almost become their parent, and the rest of us are supporting those people. It's not a wrong, that's not an incorrect analysis. There are some people that think that, to an extent. The United States government has, since the Great Depression, kind of taken on some roles of nurturing, which had never really been the case in the United States prior to that. But we cannot deny the fact that the money going to politicians is influencing, in many examples, is influencing what they're doing. And who is it benefiting? I think that's really the crux of the issue. Are these politicians, whether they're Democrats receiving monies from labor unions like the Minnesota Teachers Union? Education Minnesota was very active in getting laws changed this past legislative cycle to increase the funding to local schools. I mean, they mobilized to get that pushed through, and then they mobilized to get Democrats elected, and then they mobilized again to make sure Democrats did what they had promised to do. Is that right? Is it right that large state organizations are influencing our elected officials versus, on the Republican side, you've got your, what is it? American Partnership for American Traditions, or Partnership for American Families, or the Christian Coalition, or the Moral Majority, or whatever it is. Is it okay that our politicians are receiving funds from those groups that may or may not have any sort of presence inside the state other than their dollars? And those candidates, those now elected officials, should they win, they're pushing that agenda. It really comes down to, does each American have an equal say, an equal vote, an equal influence, equal representation in their government? And unfortunately, my answer is, I don't know. It depends. Politics is a very difficult thing to teach kids because, well, there's no absolutes. Everything is gray. For example, Republicans are typically people they subscribe to the political thoughts of small government, low taxes, let the people do what they need to do to survive. The people are the most efficient, most successful, most productive solution to any problem. Let them figure it out themselves. But at the same point in time, in the 21st century, today's Republican Party, although they believe in small government, you've got plenty of Republicans that want to dabble in the rights that are granted to homosexuals. You have Republicans dabbling in issues like abortion. Those things don't scream to me small government. And at the same point in time, you've got Democrats who, their approach to things is very much tax and spend. But when it comes to, a concept of equality, they prefer to cut taxes for the middle class and the lower class incomes, rather lower and middle income Americans, while taxing the wealthy at a higher percentage. I don't know if that's necessarily fair either. So it's a little bit of a mess. But judging by these answers, it seems like we watched the video. We're able to get the gist of it, so I appreciate that. Excellent work there. Let's transition into what we're doing here for the next couple of days. We're going to dive deep into the Electoral College, and we're really going to see if, going back to our essential question, does the United States government live up to its ideals of freedom and democracy? We're going to look at the Electoral College and see kind of how this operates. So you have two documents to analyze for tomorrow, and I'll make sure I get the I don't have the due time posted on the weekly agenda, but you got two, document A and document B. Each document, you'll see the document embedded in the top of the questions here. All right. And then you've got a series of questions to answer. I decided to do this in a different format versus just the discussion posts. I'm hoping this would be easier for me to grade. But you've got a series of questions, right? Let's go to preview. I think that'll be easier here. So we got a 10-point assignment. You got the document here. This one is a particular, it's an electoral map from, I believe, 2012. And then you see the questions listed off on the side. Now, the one crappy part is you're going to see the question, and then you're going to go have to go back to number one to look at the document. All right. So there are a series of questions here where you're kind of analyzing what is going on with each of these maps. All right. And you obviously just respond to the questions, and then I'll talk about that tomorrow in our video. The other DBQ for, where did it go? The other DBQ for tomorrow, document Bay, DBQ doc Bay. We have some more information here. So you've got a source. Let's go to preview so you see it better. You've got a source here where we see the election from 1980 and the election from 1992. You see the three candidates. Those were years that we had a third-party candidate that got some legitimate play from the popular vote. And you see how the popular vote compares to the electoral vote. So you see the votes that citizens gave each candidate, and then the electoral votes that they received. So for this, again, the first question is the actual document itself. And then you've got some questions that help you break down the information. And I'll kind of summarize each of these things, give you something to think about before we go on to documents C and D tomorrow. So two DBQs to work on for tomorrow. I'll go through them in the video then. But make sure you post your answers by 12:10 tomorrow, please, and thank you. Then you'll get two more. So we'll do, I think we have A, B, C, D, E, F, G. We have seven DBQs to do in the next few days, and then we'll test. My guess is we won't test next week. We'll probably test the Tuesday the week after. So let me know if you have any questions, or if you're confused on something, drop me an email or drop in on the check-in times. So with that, I'll see you guys later. Go Spartans.